Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest, former WWE superstar, three-time WWE Hardcore champion, former Tough Enough One winner. He is Mr. Maven Huffman. Maven, welcome
Hey,
to the two-man power trip. How
what's
you doing?
what's up, John? How are you, buddy?
Very good. What's been going on in your world? What have you been up to?
Yeah, that living the regular man's life these days. Got a normal 9 to 5 now, and it's actually turned into more of like a 9 to 7. So definitely a lot different than the days of traveling the world and seeing everything. But I still get to do a small amount of stuff in the wrestling world, and that keeps me. I don't want to say sane, but it definitely keeps that itch scratched that I have for the business.
And of course, ISPW on March 25th in Totowa, New Jersey.
Right.
Speaking of the small wrestling stuff you still do, I mean, they're getting pretty big time here, but ISPW,
Yeah.
ISPWwrestling.com. What's going on in Totowa on the 25th?
Well, I am managing Danny Morrison. Danny Dory from his ECW days,
Yep.
and I have to tell you, every now and then I get to work with someone that I go back from my days of being just a strict fan, and I get to mark out in a way. And Danny's one of those guys. Danny's one of those wrestlers that I not only respected him so much, from just his. I mean, he's had such a long career in the business, but one of those guys that once I got to know him, and I didn't actually know him before my time with ISPW, but just a better guy. Just you meet I meet a lot of guys, and some people are better in person, some are worse. But Danny's
Right.
one of those guys that he's just a better human being than he is a wrestler, and he's one hell of a wrestler. So I'm enjoying my time not only with ISPW and with Tommy, but with definitely loving working with Danny.
I was watching your friend of mine, Tommy Fiero. I was watching some of
Loving Tommy.
his virtual signings and stuff, and I see Nunzio
Hmm.
doing one, and all of a sudden you
Oh yeah,
come in, and you and Danny come in. I was like, oh, this is
right.
great. I mean, great stuff. Just interrupting him. That was
Oh
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, it was good
yeah.
stuff.
There's another guy. I actually got to work with Nunzio back when we were in WWE together. Another guy, just a hell of a guy. And but the fact that he's still able to, he still looks the exact same. People tell me all the time, you still look like you did back then. I don't think I do, but they do. So sure, he
Yeah.
literally looks the exact same as he did 20 years ago. I don't know what water he's drinking, but I want some of it. I know that much.
Are you having fun though? Still in wrestling? Because they say after a while you lose the fun. You're still having fun doing it.
And that happened to me. I actually lost my desire for it. I lost and the way anything's a job is for me. Am I allowed to cuss on this podcast
Sure,
or
go for it. Yeah. Yep.
like this? Like I live life pretty basic and pretty simple. If when my alarm goes off in the morning, if I yell fuck, then I don't need to be doing what I'm doing. And I
Right.
got to the point to where anytime I knew I had a show or anything wrestling wise coming up, I would be like, fuck, I don't want to do this. And that's how I knew I'd lost the desire to do it. My job I'm at now, when my alarm goes off, I don't. It doesn't bother me to have to get up and get ready and come in. I'm doing something new, but I love the people I work with, and I love the challenges, the daily challenges that it gives. And working with ISPW and working with Tommy, it's given me that love back for the business. That I mean, I don't want to say I lost it because when you lose something, you it just let's say it went on hiatus. My love for the business it went on a brief couple year hiatus. That might have been due to bitterness a little bit. Obviously I think there's not one any professional wrestler that looks at their career and thinks, hey, you know what, they did the right amount with me. No, everybody thinks they should
Right.
do more with them. But I'm in that camp. I really think that in some ways the WWE dropped the ball with me. Not due to anything they did. I played a huge part in that as well. But it's where I'm satisfied in a lot of aspects of my career. There's a lot of aspects I'm unsatisfied with. Um, and I was ready for a while to just be like, it's over, it's done. My body's beat all to hell. I don't want to go through what it takes to be ring shape anymore. I'd rather just embark on new challenges. And then Tommy came around. I did some stuff with Matt, um, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers
Hmm.
with their Creative Pro and with their Major Figure podcast, and it re-sparked that love I had in the business. Yeah.
When you originally got in, like when you're doing Tough Enough, did you
Mhm.
think that like, okay, I'm just gonna try this, or did you think like, oh, I'm gonna be a wrestler? I'm like, what was like the thought process?
Bro, yeah. If you would have asked me back in 2000, how do you become a wrestler? That would have
Yep.
been tantamount to asking, how do you become an astronaut? Yeah, who the hell knows? I had no clue. I mean, and yeah, the internet existed back then, but to say that we had the search engines and the use of finding out information that we do now, it just wasn't the case. So I knew to become a wrestler, you had to go to wrestling school, but then what takes over after that? How do you progress from that point? Who the hell knows? So when the Tough Enough angle came about, um, I'd always wanted to do it. My buddies knew that I should do it. I came off of a college baseball career and still had that competitive fire within me. And we laugh about it still. I heard Jr. You ever want to be a wrestler? And I was like, yes. I literally was like he was talking to me. And fast forward to getting to, I sent the video. Oh my God! If you've ever seen the video I sent in, it's it's a minute to a minute and a half of the most embarrassing shit any human being could ever put down. I'm not kidding when I say this. Hold on, I'm dead serious. I'm first and foremost reading the Torch, Pro Wrestling Torch.
Yep.
I'm reading the Torch. I put it down like I'm interrupted. This is in my video for Tough Enough,
Right.
and then go into my spiel. And it's one of those things that I'm sure you do. You look back on stuff from your
Oh
youth,
yeah.
and
Oh
it's
my
just
God.
embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Well, that's
Yep.
one of the things that's embarrassing to me. But I get to New York, and I see all these just jacked up meatheads, and I mean guys that are like 6'5", probably 260. Look like they were just chiseled out of look like a bunch of Batistas there.
Right. Right.
And I show up and I'm like, I mean, at the time I'm a sixth grade school teacher. I'm 6'2", probably 190 pounds. I mean, I'm in decent shape, but I'm in like like a former college athlete shape. I'm definitely not ripped and ready to go on live television. And I'm like, I need to leave right now. This is not me. And I stuck it out, and I mean, once I won Tough Enough, I realized that yeah, there's a lot of things within professional wrestling that can be taught, but there's some things that they can't teach. And I think what made me have the upper hand was I had the intangibles at the time that you can't teach somebody. Whereas a body can be got. You can teach someone how to diet. You can teach someone how to work out properly. You can teach someone how to do all the moves. I tell people all the time the moves are the easy part in wrestling, but the psychology of it that's the part that separates the Danny Morrisons, the Al Snows, the just the amazing workers. Triple H, Batista, even guys like that. That's what separates them.
When you won, were you just shocked that you won? Because, like you said, you got 6'5" meatheads and like Vince
Yeah.
McMahon types. Were you floored? Like, wow, I can't believe I won this thing. Like, obviously, they're seeing something maybe you didn't even see in yourself.
I don't know if shocked is the right word. I want to say scared.
Hmm.
Scared for the fact that I knew at that moment, right then, my life was never going to be the same. You have times in your life, we all do, where we know like like after this day, life's not going to be what it once was.
Yep.
I mean, I lost my mom in '04. She with her battle with cancer, and the day that she passed, I knew the life that I had before this, I'll never have that again in any way, shape, or form. That's what it was when they called my name with Tough Enough. I knew I'll never have this life that I had, pre Tough Enough ever again. Whether that's a good ride or a bad ride, it still remains to be seen at the time. but it'll just never be the same. Now, when I went to Tough Enough, I tell people all the time, Tough Enough got a bad rap, and it got a bad rap in the aspect of everyone thought it was the easy way to the business. You know,
Yep.
now what it was exposure. It was getting eyes on you that probably wouldn't be on you otherwise. Whereas normally most guys had to, cut their teeth in high school gymnasiums, riding the road, riding, up and down, wrestling for $50. Sometimes $50 would be a hell of a payday.
Right.
Whereas Tough Enough got you through that. But when we got there, I mean, it was pretty much a wrestling boot camp. I tell people all the time, 13 people started off on Tough Enough, 8 quit. 8 said, this isn't what this was my dream. It's not anymore. I want to go back to what I was doing. Well, John, I quit my job, sold my car, and canceled the lease on my apartment. If I didn't win Tough Enough, I was moving back in with my mom.
Wow.
So the option of quitting never crossed me. It literally never crossed my mind. The only way I would have quit Tough Enough was an injury. An injury would have had to take me out. And speaking of that, you want to know the thing that I'm most proud of with my Tough Enough run? It's
Yeah.
not even the fact that I won, because what Tough Enough also proved was once you go through the system, win or not, if you showed promise, the WWE was going to take a chance on you. They were going to give you a job. I thought that showed a lot of class with them. I mean, think about it. From my class, from my Tough Enough one, I won, but Josh Matthews got a job and is still in the business.
Yep.
Chris Harvard, Chris Nowinski immediately got a wrestling job and was down in OVW within months. And obviously with what happened with him, with the concussions and stuff. I mean, I think life needed him in a different venue than
Yep.
professional wrestling. And my hat's off to everything he's meant to to the world of CTE. So I could not be happier. I love when I see Chris doing interviews, and I'm like, man, I beat his ass.
Yes. Got him.
But so even if I wouldn't have won Tough Enough, I still wholeheartedly believe I would have had a job in the WWE. It might not have been, I might have been in developmental a little longer, but so I already went that far. I would have seen it through.
Yep. Even recently, Mandy Rose didn't win it, but she's from Tough Enough World, and look where she is, NXT champion.
Exactly. And Tough Enough. What I'm most proud of, what I was alluding to a few seconds ago, everyone in Tough Enough, when you get into the wrestling world, I remember the Hardys came in, Hardys and Lita at the time, and they said one thing that was the honest to God truth. They said, right now, if wrestling is your career, if you choose this and this is what you do for the next 20, 30 years of your life, how you feel right now is the best you'll ever feel again the rest of your life. And I don't think, my 24-year-old brain wrapped. I was like, I feel great. I
Yeah.
mean, aches and pains, but, nothing I can't get over. But they were right. That's the best I've ever felt since then. And then it's just constant. You're going to be hurting all the time. And what I'm proudest of is through Tough Enough, I never took off one day. I never took off one exercise. I never sat out one drill due to injury. And that's what I'm most proud of. That right there. Not even the winning. Without winning, I still would have had a job, I believe. But the fact that I was able to suck up, within me, the ability to look past an ache and a pain and just get the job done that I needed to. That's what I'm proudest of.
Did you get heat after you won? Like
Oh,
you
of course.
win, you're proud of yourself.
Yeah.
People got to be upset. Like you said, they're
Oh
working
yeah.
$50, whatever. And you show charisma, you show all this ability, you show this on TV. They weren't able to do that. You're on TV, you're famous. They're not. Heat.
Let's famous. Nah, I whenever anybody says the famous word, I graciously push back. Wrestlers are famous within a very small clique of that community.
Niche audience.
It would say what?
Niche audience.
Yeah, very bingo. That's a perfect way to put it. I believe someone's famous if my mom would have heard of him. Like that's my mom wouldn't have known. Like I meet a lot of people at signings or whatever, and they'll come up and they'll be with their parents who drove them there, and I'll be signing, and I'm like, oh, is this mom? And she's like, and they'll always be like, yeah. She's like, and they'll be like, I don't know who you are, and I'm like, that's perfectly fine with me. So yeah, famous not so much, but the heat that I got was regular heat. It wasn't from the tough enough people. The heat I got was just from the people who literally thought, this guy got, he got a ride I didn't get. Now, did I take an opportunity that they wouldn't have taken? Of course not. Every one of them, every person that was mad at what I got would have done the same had they been given the opportunity. I mean, do you disagree? Do you think they would have? Of course they would have.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Hell yeah. I remember WrestleMania 18. I took Test. You remember Test?
Oh yeah, of course.
I took his spot in WrestleMania 18 to wrestle Goldust, where I was the hardcore champion. And I got so much heat with him. Well, Test, prior to his passing, and God rest his soul, I miss him daily. He became one of my best friends. And he passed in 2008, but when I moved down to Florida, I hung out with him as soon as I moved down there because I didn't know anybody. And we were going out to eat one night, and he was like, in his voice, he was like, I hated you for a while, bro. He's like, but you turned out to be pretty damn cool. And it's just like anything. You have to just prove yourself to people. And once I proved to myself that I wasn't there just to try to become famous. I wasn't there to try to take a shortcut to anything. I just love the business, and I love the athleticism of it. I love the entertainment value of it. Like when I get to go out with ISPW, I am a heel in every sense of the word.
Yep.
And then the moment that the show's over, I'm the one hugging people and telling the kids, thanking them for coming out, and I love that aspect of the business. I love the fact that I get to go out, be something that I'm not, and and have fun doing it.
Now, I don't know if you heard of this guy, but The Undertaker is going to be in the Hall of Fame this year. You kind of made him famous a little bit in 2002.
Who?
This guy, The Undertaker. Yeah.
Hold on, hold on a second. Let me write his name down. I'll look him up.
Yeah.
I'll look him up when you say he's important.
Yes. What do you think about working with The Undertaker? Because just go back to Royal Rumble 2002. That's one of the shocking moments as a fan. You're a smart fan. You're getting older. You're like, I didn't see that coming. Like, holy crap, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he quote unquote makes you famous and beats you up afterwards. But that was awesome.
Yeah. Gave me my career.
Yep.
Like hands down. Would I have had the run? Would I have had the career that I had without him? Absolutely not. Just the guy knew how to do business. The guy, if you walk into that locker room in 2002, 2001, there's two people that immediately intimidate you. That's Vince McMahon and The Undertaker. And other guys, they're intimidating, they're big, you got the Rock's, to the coolest guy on television. But Undertaker is just like he's walking around, and it's almost like literally like a god walking there. And then Vince is Vince.
Yep.
I always tell people, they're like, "What's Vince McMahon like?" And I'm like, "He's a businessman. He signs the front of the checks, I sign the back." So, but Taker, the fact that he was able to, because he didn't have to do what he did. The fact that he had the foresight to, put me over by letting me eliminate him, it gave me a career. What happens to me? I could have very well been lost in HWA or in OVW in the developmental for years. With him, I wasn't. I immediately had clout. I immediately had a little bit of this guy is meant to be here, and he did that all on his own with doing what he did for me.
The announcer selling it, hits, facial expressions. I mean, just then and there, it's like, oh my God, this upset kid, Maven. I mean, boom, it got you over in an instant.
It got me over. And what you see, I don't know if you remember, but I eliminated him. He, Sells, gets up, turns and looks at me, and then the camera pans back on my face in the ring after I did my jumping celebration. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yep. Oh yeah.
And then you see fear on my face.
Yes.
Most people are like, that's some great acting there. I wasn't acting. I was legitimately terrified at that moment. Like legitimately not even working. I was shoot terrified because I didn't know if I kicked him too hard. I just remember when we were going over it during the day, with his back to me, he told me, he's like, when you give me the drop kick, he's like, I can't sell it if I don't feel it. He's like, lay it in. And so I didn't know if I kicked him too hard. I didn't know what, but it just goes to show how great he was, because the look he was giving me for real scared me. And then we get backstage, and after I went through the popcorn machine and everything, he's just telling, great job, kid. And just, I was on cloud nine that whole night. And I had guys from HWA calling me and telling me that they were proud of me. At the time I was living with, and there's a name for you if you go back. You remember Easy Money?
Oh yes, Jason Jett. Oh yeah, Easy Money.
Yeah, look at you. There you go. Still one of my good friends. I speak with Easy quite frequently, but I was living with him at the time. I showed up to HWA, and it was Easy Money, Shannon Moore. Oh my gosh, who else? Oh, what was his name? Johnny the Bull. Remember Johnny the Bull?
Yeah, Stamboli.
Yeah, and there was one other guy. We all lived and they let me come and crash on their couch. That, and I ended up staying with Easy Money for the longest time. And I think for a while I even slept on his floor at HWA. But they're calling me, and they're genuinely happy with the success that I had gotten that night. And I look back on those moments of life, and I know I'll never be able to recreate them, but just the sheer sense of accomplishment, it's always going to stay with me. As in life we have to learn that we lose everything. Eventually everything goes. You lose your good looks, you lose your fight against staying in shape. You lose the people you love. We lose jobs, we lose money. But that's one thing I'm never going to lose. I'm going to have those moments and those memories to carry me for the rest of my life.
Were you eventually at one point, because I know after all this, obviously, you have the title match with Jericho, you have like a little mini feud there. Were you ever destined for did they ever say anything like you're destined for this or IC title or world title? Did they ever tell you anything like that?
Yeah, they did. IC title. They had me on an IC title run or path. Because that was when I switched over from babyface to heel.
Yep.
But being the fact that I was still so green, I mean, at the time I'd only been in the business a few years and only worked babyface. And when you're learning, to wrestle as a heel, it's completely different, because the heels in America anyway, the heels lead the match. You're in charge of, pretty much everything. And I think the fact that I was still learning as much as I was, put that title hold on the shelf for a while. But then came along Simon Dean with Simon's system and stuff. And, it was just, it was a marriage made in heaven once I started working with Nova. And he's another one who just, probably should have got a bigger run than he did. Just an amazing worker. But I learned so much with working through him. And I learned that I never want to wrestle as a babyface again. I only want to be a heel, because it's so much more fun. I loved it.
Was there ever any real consideration to you being an Evolution? Remember with the Triple H faction?
Yeah, and I hear this quite frequently. The Evolution, I heard rumblings backstage about it. How true they were, I was never approached by anybody from the office. I was never approached by anyone, even in Evolution, about it. Mark Jindrak was the one who, they actually shot vignettes with Mark And I think, Jindrak was going to be the Batista character, before they picked Dave. I mean, they did, so, I don't think there was ever any legitimate, possibilities of an Evolution run. Just rumblings and stuff. But you hear that kind of stuff, backstage all the time. Like I heard, for instance, when I fought Jericho, at the time he was the unified champion. I mean, he had the WWE and the WCW belt at the same time. I think there was more truth, and they were thinking about giving me that title for a week. Let me have it for a week and then drop it. Do one set of house shows and then drop it. There was probably a better chance of that happening than me being an Evolution. But at the time, I think about this. At the time when Evolution came about, I was just still too. I wasn't seasoned enough in my wrestling career to entertainment wise. Could I have went out and kept up with the pre-tapes, and could I have kept up with the character portion of it? Absolutely. I'll put my promo skills up against most anybody's. But in ring, I was not at the stage of a Randy Orton. Obviously, definitely not a Triple H or a Ric Flair. I don't even want to consider that. But I wasn't at the stage wrestling wise that a Mark Jindrak or a Dave Batista was. So they made the right choice.
They definitely teased you, though, as far as like the top of the card, Evolution, and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely.
They did, and I had a blast doing stuff with that. I still, I haven't seen Dave in a while, but I always laugh and tell him I have a pinfall victory over you. Yeah. There was that one episode where I slapped him in the face. I think I walked up, I smacked him in the face, and running into the ring, and with a roll up, got a 1-2-3 on him.
You got a couple big upsets. You beat Undertaker for the hardcore title. A couple big upsets there for you.
I beat Taker. I beat Batista. I beat Scott Steiner. I had him on a couple house shows, and so a kid that grew up watching. And I grew up in Virginia in the country, and I remember my Saturdays were devoted to watching professional wrestling. To grow up knowing what I loved as a youth and as a child, to be able to do what I did, I'm extremely happy with that.
What was like the high water mark for you in your career?
I don't want to say. Everybody would think it was the Rumble, but it's not. The benchmark high water mark for me was the night that I was the GM in Indianapolis. It was after Survivor Series. I think it was. I want to say me, Jericho, Benoit, and I forget, and Orton versus this was after Evolution, I think, disbanded. And I think we went up against, I want to say Edge, Gene Snitsky, Triple H, and I forget who the fourth was.
Jericho, maybe?
It was Jericho, yes. And the I don't know if you remember, but the winner of that got to be GM on Raw for the next 4 weeks, and they kicked it off with me. I didn't think they were. I thought they were going to kick it off with probably Orton or somebody to give the keep the momentum of that going. But the fact that they used me, I was in a little bit of shock. But that night, and when you're in the business and you're doing a live show, you realize they split it up into segments. So you might be like, hey Orton, what are you in tonight? He'd be like, oh, I'm in segment 2, 7, and 16. And if you on a regular show, if you have 3 segments, that's a good amount of work that you're going to be doing. I was in 11 of the 16 segments on the show. I had 2 promos, one of which opened the show, one of which in the middle of the show, and then my live stuff and then we had a couple pre-tapes backstage. Now, pre-tapes, though, you can, if you fuck them up, you can redo them. But the live stuff, it's live. And then I had my stuff with Hunter. And on top of that, I think it was about 18 minutes that Hunter and I had in the actual match. Now, Hunter could work with a mop for 18 minutes and make the mop look good. Now, I don't want to think it was not me one bit. Hunter is the best when it comes to in-ring work. I'll give him all the praise in the world. But just at the end of that night, I knew I could carry a show, and I never looked at ratings or anything from it, so I don't know how they ended up. But I just remember going through the curtain of gorilla and looking, and Vince looked at me and he just went, "Good shit, kid, good shit," and that was all the praise I needed. So that's my high water mark.
That is great. But as we
Yeah.
head towards the finish, we head towards the wind down here. Any regrets in the business? Anything you wish you would have done?
Tons, absolutely. My main regret, I would say, I was a kid. I was in my 20s, and I remember that, Johnny Ace used to tell me all the time, get out, get in the ring, work with Fit, but before the show, and you'd have all these, guys and girls in there just working on their craft. And I did it at the very beginning, and then I don't know if it wasn't laziness. I guess I just believed, I got it. This is, I know what I'm doing. When, and I remember, Stevie Richards used to be in that, down at that ring before every show, just working on stuff. There would be guys that would be down there just literally working on their craft. And that never was me. And if I could go back and tell young me, it would be that. Get your ass there, go to catering, get your food, and then get down to that ring and work on. I would go down there and I would work on my match with whoever, with whatever agent I had or whoever I was working with. And once we had the match done, I'd go to the gym or go just back to whatever. And that's my regret. If I would have been out there, because I had fully admit wrestling, I was an average wrestler. I wasn't gonna make I wasn't gonna make anybody look bad, but I wasn't gonna be the guy that was out there, just blowing the roof off the place. Now, I believe I had enough athletic ability where with a little bit more effort, I could have been, putting forth a lot better matches. And that's my regret. I have no one to blame on that but myself. Blame 100% lies with me.
Now, of course,
that's a good question. I haven't been asked that before. That's a great question.
Oh, wow.
Great question. Yeah. Never been asked
curious. That. I'm always curious with guys because, there's have so much going on in their career, but always like, what didn't they do? What didn't they get to be able to do?
You know what? And so many people, and I've heard interviews, and so many people want to place blame, over here and over there. And if this ball would have bounced this way, I might have been able to do this. Or if this would have done this, I could have had my shot. No. The fact that I had the career that I had was totally it's 1,000% on me, 1,000%. And I have no doubt one bit that if I wouldn't have been down there listen to what Johnny Ace said, getting better at my craft. Shelton Benjamin was another one who was down there at the ring the entire day. And Shelton, if I would have said, Shelton, will you get in the ring and work with me on this? He would have done it in a second. Regal used to get in there and help me out with stuff. And the fact that I had literally these legends at what we do, William Regal and Fit Finley. I mean, that's literally being able to take, lessons from the two of the best to ever do something. And I had them at my disposal. And didn't take advantage of that. Nah, I'm not gonna place blame on or point a finger at anybody. That's 1,000% on me. I have to own that.
Of course.
And that's what keeps me up at night. That's what keeps me up at night.
Not that beautiful skyline. That
is pretty, isn't it? Yeah, it is pretty. I was showing you earlier. This literally that's the Freedom Tower right there.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, we're in the heart of the financial district right here, and this is and we got more, got it over there.
Yes.
I got my post post work drinks over there, but this is I don't like looking at the past too much unless I'm going to learn off of it, and unless I'm going to figure out how to grow and how to make me just better at anything that I do. But that's a great question, and I'm able, and I have the ability to look back at my career and know that anything that held me back, it wasn't the writing, and it wasn't it wasn't anybody I performed with, it wasn't politics, it wasn't, oh, I turn my speaker off on it wasn't the politics, or somebody having heat, I had heat with somebody. No, it was the fact that my ass believed. I believed my height. I was riding with Randy Orton, who was probably what to me, for my money, I think Randy's the best to ever do this business. I think, and that's, you talk about 5 tool baseball players. Randy is to me, he is everything in this business. And at the time, I was riding with Randy, and I guess I thought that it was going to be osmosis and it was going to transfer over to me,
Right,
just
yeah.
by riding with him. But it doesn't work like that. And the world, life meets nobody halfway. If you want something, you got to get off your ass and go get it. And I didn't, and I'm perfectly capable and able to admit that.
So, of course, got to mention ISPW again, March 25th,
Absolutely.
Ottawa, New Jersey. Give us
Yeah.
one last big push why everybody should go to the show.
If you are, obviously, if you're watching this, you're a fan of professional wrestling in some way. If you are a fan of the older school wrestling, come out. If you are a fan of the new school wrestling, come out. We have something for everyone. And what I love about what the wrestling that I'm able to do now is it's literally putting the fans kind of in the show. I will have worked with Danny. He's out there jawing with the crowd. He's going to people. He's having a good time bringing the crowd into it. I'm doing the same. And anyone who comes out there, I guarantee you it'll be a night of entertainment that you're going to wonder when the next show is. And the guys that are on the ISPW slate, oh my gosh, every one of them could be on live television every week. Like, they are just such good workers. They're entertaining. I mean, you got something for everybody. Tommy's done a great job of bringing the best stable of talent, and bringing in some guys too, from my generation, from generation after mine. It's just a good show. And if you're in the independent wrestling scene, I guarantee you're going to find no better show.
Of course, go to ispwwrestling.com for tickets and more information. Great stuff over there. You got the Wrestling Collector Store, which is not that far away from Ottawa. You got that too. That Tommy
I'll be
owns.
there as well. Yeah.
So
man, I'll be there as well.
He's killing it right now. He's got awesome promotion. He's got this. He's got virtual signings. He's killing it. 80s wrestling.
He has a love, and you can see when somebody has a passion for something, what their product looks like. And Tommy's love is transitioned into the product that he puts out.
Yep.
And he genuinely wants to not only make the fans happy, but he wants to make the wrestlers happy. And I'm happy to say he succeeds on both fronts.
And now, as far as you, social media, anything you want to get out there where fans can kind of find you? You don't really do social media.
Yeah, no, brother. I don't do it. No. I wish I did. I'm thinking about maybe getting on it. I probably should, but I don't know. To me, I see social media as a younger man's game. I've used this analogy before. I probably missed it by 10 years. If I was 10 years younger, I would definitely be using it as a tool. Yeah, I tell people all the time, it's I feel like the last guy to get polio the week before the vaccine came out.
Right. Well, Maven, thank you so much for all
the time. Thank you, brother.
We'll see you in Ottawa, New Jersey on the 25th, ISPW Wrestling. Thank you, Maven.
Thank you so much, man. It's my pleasure.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John.